Dan Dickau, Gonzaga Nation SI. What a college basketball season 2022-23 has been. Wrapped up last night with UConn winning their fifth title over San Diego State, the Aztecs out of the Mountain West. I did think that UConn was going to win. I did not think they were going to jump out to the lead that they did early in the game. And so, it really put San Diego State back on their heels. They couldn't score very well in the first half. So UConn jumps out to that big lead. San Diego State then has to try to press in on the offensive end, play a little faster than they're used to, which did not help. So they were down double figures early. But you got to give San Diego State a ton of credit. They fought back. They cut it to 5 midway through that second half, made things interesting for a little bit, and then too many big plays from UConn, too much struggles on the offensive end for San Diego State to be able to overcome that deficit and win a national title. But fifth title for UConn. I think that puts them in a discussion and cements them as a blue blood, to be honest with you, alongside Kansas, Kentucky, Duke, now North Carolina, because you're talking 5 national titles. Indiana's got national titles. They're talked about as a blue blood, but they haven't been relevant, at least at that level nationally, in quite some time. Yeah, they had a good season, but not to the extent of winning titles. So congrats to UConn. In regards to San Diego State, a heck of a season, but just was undone in the title game by the lack of offensive firepower. Now, they've got good offensive players who can score in bunches, but they have long droughts where they struggle to score. They only shot 32% from the field on the night, 6 of 23 from beyond the three-point line. That's going to be hard to beat a really good UConn team in a game like this. But Matt Bradley finishes off a nice career, started at Cal, transferred to San Diego State, found a home. I mean, he was really good. Didn't score it as much this year as he did a season ago, but I think that's because the team was more balanced. He struggled last night, 8 points, only 2 of 9 from the field, but Trammell and Butler in the backcourt both played well with 13 points. Keyshawn Johnson led them in scoring with 14 points in the loss, but their defense is what allowed them to climb back into that game in that second half. But to stop and slow down UConn on their offensive attack takes quite a bit of work, because UConn was number 3 offensive efficiency going into this game, and they looked the part, especially early. They shot mid 40s from the field, which against a good San Diego State team is hard to do. They scored it from the inside with Sanogo. Klingon had some nice stretches. They scored it from the perimeter with Newton and Hawkins. And then Andre Jackson just kind of facilitating everything out there. But, I think they also did a nice job of getting to the free throw line and taking advantage where they were 24 of 27 from the free throw line. UConn's Newton, 19 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. I didn't talk much about him in the couple games leading up, but he was tremendous. Hawkins, 16 points, Sanogo, 17 points, 10 rebounds in the win. This does lead now to the next discussions that we're going to be having throughout the offseason here on Gonzaga Nation SI. The experience and the depth of a team like San Diego State, with their ability to keep guys in a program. You're talking about guys, Nathan Mensah there for 5 years, Adam Seiko there for 6 years with the COVID year. Lamont Butler's been there for 3. Matt Bradley transferred in, but then he's been there for a while. Agweka Rope was there for quite some time. They had guys that were entrenched in their system, versus now talented teams like UConn. Now, Danny Hurley has done a tremendous job of getting those guys to buy in, staying the course. And now in his 5th year, they've reached the promised land of a national title. But now that they're at that level and they can recruit those high-level guys, are those guys going to leave early for the NBA? Is Sanogo gone? Is Hawkins gone? Is Klingon gone? A freshman who, wasn't overly heralded coming in, is he going to be gone? So there's a new dynamic in college sports that I think college basketball that's going to be fascinating to watch play out in this offseason with the transfer portal. That extra 5th year COVID, this upcoming year really should be the last year where it has much of an impact on college basketball. So to be able to balance the transfer portal of guys that need a fresh break versus as well as guys that want to use that extra 5th COVID year, and then how to manage the NIL. Now, coaches and staffs can't be directly involved in NIL. They can't facilitate, they can't negotiate, but they're darn sure kept in the loop of what's going on with NIL, and they're able to be aware of it. So it's going to make for some interesting stretches here in the offseason. I mean, there's already a number of names in the portal that are going to be interesting. There's over 1,200 players in the portal right now. Not all those players are going to find a home. Some are going to transfer down a level. Some are going to transfer up a conference. Some are flat out, unfortunately, not going to find a home, and they'll be done with their college basketball career. But you've got some big time names already in there. Brandon, we'll touch a little more on the Gonzaga players, Dominic Harris and Hunter Salas, who were in there. But you're going to see a lot of guys that were in these last 2 weekends of the regular season, in the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and maybe in the Final Four, throw their name in the transfer portal. Max Asmus from Oral Roberts, LJ Cryer from Baylor are two names that quickly come to mind that are going to probably draw a ton of interest, at least in regards to backcourt opportunities for teams to strengthen their attack. But then you look at the big picture of teams at the college level next year. How does Duke, how does Kentucky, how does Kansas, how does Texas, how do these schools handle the NIL? They had nice years, all made the tournament. All could have maybe gone further outside of maybe Texas. I thought, Texas being in the Elite 8 kind of maximized their opportunities. But, Duke under John Shire in year one had a nice year. Took them a while to get going, but once they got going and were healthy, they were good. Kentucky, up and down. Coach Cal, there's been some hot seat rumors there, but I can't imagine that's absolutely true. I think that's just internet frustration by people that don't have to put their face and name out there. Kansas with Bill Self, he wasn't able to coach in the Big 12 tournament as well as the NCAA tournament due to health issues. Is he going to be okay to keep leading that Kansas Jayhawk program? Then you got the questions of Baylor. You guys like LJ Cryer transferring out. What do they do? San Diego State, now that they've been in a Final Four, does that change their recruiting opportunities? UCLA, they lost a big-time player in Jaime Jaquez. Tiger Campbell could come back with a fifth year, but does he? Does Adem Bona leave for the NBA? Where does that leave them? Arizona, we've already seen Kirk Kriisa, starting point guard, leading assist man in the Pac-12, leave into the transfer portal. How do they replace his production? You're seeing the emergence of the Big East. I mean, I think the Big East is going to definitely have the opportunity to unseat the Big 12 next year as the best basketball conference in the country if they didn't show it towards the end of this year. So lots of awesome storylines to follow in this offseason. We will keep you up to date on as many of those as possible, obviously with a focus on Gonzaga and how things impact them. But we'll be back with you really soon on transfer portal updates and news in regards to anything related to the Gonzaga players that have entered the portal, as well as players that are in the portal that Gonzaga might be considering or have already committed to Gonzaga. So for Gonzaga Nation SI, hopefully you had enjoyed a great 2022-23 college basketball season.